Okay, thank you for joining us, Joy, and everybody. I see we've got some new people in the audience here tonight, so welcome to the Progressive Democrats of Howard County meeting. This is our general meeting for the month of March. We have a great panel discussion planned for you all tonight. The topic is, what can the Democratic Party do better? We've got a couple panelists from people involved in the county to speak on that. But aside from the panel, just want to remind everybody, if you go in our link tree, linktr.ee/HOCO Progressives, I will put it here in the Zoom chat. It has a link to all of our social media, our Instagram, our Instagram, our Twitter, our Facebook, links to become a paid member, links to join our email list. Anything that you could really want is on that link tree. So check out the link tree, follow us and everything. Other helpful things to know, if you want to become a dues paying member so that you get added to our group chat, added to our Google group, be able to vote, especially with the upcoming endorsement vote next meeting in April. Now is as good a time as any to become a paid member. The dues to become a member are, it's $36 for annual membership that lasts throughout the rest of the year. So that's just for you. If you want to do a +1 membership that covers you and one other person, it's $50. Which is $25 per person, so it's cheaper to do a +1 membership. And if you're running low on funds, we do offer 3 to 6 month due waiver upon request if needed. You actually do not have to be a registered Democrat to become a member of this club, and you also don't have to be a member to come to the meetings. But if you want to be able to vote, you do have to be a dues paying member. In case, people are like, well, what can I do? I mean, even if you're not a member, you can still be involved in these activities, but we do have a couple committees that we're trying to get off the ground. That was the outreach committee, so that we can plan sort of outreach events between the general meetings, whether that's tabling, whether it's volunteering with local charities. These are all things we've done. We just need kind of people to take that on. So if you're interested, we'd love to have you have your help with that. We have an international solidarity committee that focuses on more foreign policy stuff happening around the world. Lots to talk about with that, especially with Russia, Ukraine. I think we may do a podcast episode on that very soon. And then we had a candidate committee that was recruiting candidates to run for office. It's getting a little late on that with the deadline coming up, but there are other ways that people who aren't already on the executive board, have ideas for things the club can do. We're always open to it. In order to actually pay your dues, we have a couple options. We have a Venmo, if you want to, pay it over Venmo digitally, username here. And then also you could just mail a check the old-fashioned way. Take out that cash part. Yeah, mail check. We have a P.O. box. Here's the address. Again, $36 for individual dues, $50 for +1. In addition to paying the dues, you also have to get voted in by a majority of existing members who are at a particular meeting. So it doesn't matter what order that happens in, whether you pay the dues and then get voted in, or whether you get voted in and then pay the dues. Paul and Yvonne, I think, for example, already paid their dues and will be voted in officially tonight. Other people will be voted in tonight, but haven't paid their dues yet. So it's a 2-step process. Doesn't matter what order, but you have to do both steps before you're a voting member. And as a reminder, for charter members who were the original batch of members last year, your membership expired March 1st of this year. So you have to renew your dues if you were part of that original charter member, and who you are if you are one. Okay, moving along. So treasurer's report. Yes.
In terms of the charter members, we know who we are, but we might not remember if we paid. Is there a way for us to check that?
I think right now we're working on Huri, Kiana, and I think Megan are working on an audit, a bylaw required audit to sort of get those finances squared away, get our membership system set up so that we can, sort of verify, reach out and let you know if you do need to pay again. So sorry we don't have that.
Hey, Jake.
Yeah.
I can send out an email again. We had sent out one. I want to say like a couple of months ago, but I can send out an email again just as a reminder, Rick. So I'll send it out to the chart, like to all, to the members who, to whose membership has expired, has lapsed. So maybe we'll do that like this week or something.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Huri. And yeah, as I said, our bylaws do require an annual audit, and we are doing that right now. The president is not involved with that, but we're doing that with Huri, Kiana, and Megan as required by the bylaw. So, we can have more definitive, understanding of where we're at in terms of membership. But a general look at the finances, as of last meeting, we had $1,251.85 in the account. As of this meeting, we got a little bit more money, $1,000, 366, $1,366.82. And here we had also had one small expense in the month, but it was just like the wild apricot, like $7 fee, right?
Yeah, it's just for to use the membership payment system for wild apricot, like Venmo or any other payment system. You have to pay that. And just to clarify, so I believe the audit is just to make sure like we're reconciling all the finances in terms of like the membership information. We would probably, I think that's not something that we would clarify through that, but again, it's just one way to check is to confirm, to email one of the either me or Karen to see if if your membership is still active.
But yeah, so we will have more clarity on that by next meeting. So apologies there. So yeah, so we're doing fairly healthy financially, especially for a club that is still less than a year old at this point. So moving on, speaking of membership and new members, so last meeting we voted in a couple new members. I think some of these people still need to pay their dues though, but we at least voted them in, and that was Kathy Howell, Mark Brew, and Mo Imran. And today we need to vote on a couple new members, Paul and Yvette, who had paid their dues a while ago, but the check was sitting in our PO box that we hadn't checked. But we've gotten their dues, so we can go ahead and vote on them right now because they're just one +1 membership together. So I guess I will motion to vote Paul and I'm sorry, I put Yvonne. Or Yvette. It's Yvonne, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I've been dealing with Yvette Lewis too much in the state party. But yeah, Paul and Yvonne Basich, I'm gonna motion to vote them in as members. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. And give a chance for discussion before I do any seconds or before I do yay or nay. But all in support, say aye.
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 Only members, of course.
Aye.
Yeah. Okay. All opposed, say nay. Okay. Looks like congratulations, Paul and Yvonne. And then next, we will go to, I'm gonna do the people that are here first, give them priority. We had, okay. Katie, or I had you as Catherine, but I guess you go by Katie Wilkins. You're here, right? Okay. Yeah, so she submitted, I think she still needs to pay dues, but she submitted the membership interest form. So I will motion in support of voting Katie or Catherine Wilkins in as a member. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. Give a chance for any discussions. Katie, if you want to say hello to the group, but maybe you're away from camera at the moment.
Hey, I'm having slight in and out audio issues tonight, but I am around, and I just need to pay my dues, so I'll do that. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you for submitting your interest. And so all in favor of Katie being a member, say aye.
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 And all opposed, say nay. Okay. All right. Congratulations, Katie. And we can get you the stuff to pay the dues if you need it, though it is. We went over it on the previous slides. And in addition to Katie, also Manesh Pillai, another newcomer. So I will, they also submitted their membership interest. I believe they also need to pay their dues still, but so I will motion in support of voting Manesh in as a member. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. And chance for discussion. Manesh, same for you. I don't know if you want a chance to say hello to everybody.
Hello, my name is Manesh. I actually been following the site for a few months now, saw some of the podcast episodes, and it was very interesting discussion. So here I am today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And yeah, we got to start getting in the habit of when we got new people, whether it's me or somebody else who's on the executive board or just a member in general, reaching out to new people, doing a one-to-one, bringing them in. So hopefully you two can expect to, have one of us reach out to you in that regard. But thank you for joining us. Steve, I see you've got your hand up.
Yes, sir. Do you need to fill out, I'm hearing membership interest form before you can be considered for a member?
You don't have to fill out the membership interest form. If you want, you could just like right now, if you want to just verbally do your membership interest, we could vote you in right now, and then you can just pay your dues. But if somebody just paid their dues and then showed up to a meeting and was like, hey, can you guys vote me in? That'd be fine. They don't have to actually fill out that interest form if they don't want.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt or slow you down, but I would be interested in membership. And I just talked to my boss and she's authorized a member +1.
Okay.
Steve and Linda.
Awesome. Yeah. The boss, Miss Linda Bolin, boss. Yes. Okay. Well, yeah, we can go ahead. Of course, you'll still need to pay dues to officially be a member. We can go ahead and do the vote now, if that's okay. Okay. So I will motion that we vote Steve and Linda, vote on them in as members. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay.
Okay, we need to do the Manesh vote first.
Oh, yes. Good call. Okay. All right. We already motioned and seconded and with Manesh, so I guess we could just do the all in favor. So all in favor for voting Manesh in. Of course,
Aye.
this next week.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed, say nay. Okay. Well, congrats, Manesh. Welcome to the club. And okay, I will do the motion for Steve and Linda again. Motion to vote on Steve.
There's a question in the chat about Steve.
Oh, I missed all that. Yeah.
Just asking him to introduce himself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll do. Yeah. Okay. I guess even before we motion, Steve. Yeah. Take it away.
Very good. Thank you. I don't mean to interrupt and slow down your meeting, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you guys tonight. So I'm interested in membership. I know I heard that you don't have to be a registered Democrat to join, but my wife and I both are registered Democrats. We've both been active in the community. We're both retired federal civil servants. I'm actually running for office this year. I'm running for a candidate delegate in District 9A. But I've been following the club. Some of you might have seen me at some of the club meetings in the past. So it's not just doing this for running, because I'm also a member of the Columbia Club and the Carroll County Club and various other clubs. And even though my district won't include Carroll County this year, likely, I'm still plan to be a lifelong member of the Carroll County Club. So I'm here for the long run. I'm a Democrat. I support Democrat values. And Jake's, this club is I've been following it. Something I want to support you guys too. And Lori Liskin, thank you very much for your seconding on my nomination, because I'm a board member of NAMI Howard County. I'm a board member with Lori. I also serve on their public policy committee and their community outreach committee. I'm a member of the advocacy and resource committee for the Howard County Autism Society. I'm a member of the NAACP Howard County and the Sierra Club. And as far as the Sierra Club, if anybody else is a member, we want to work to try to reduce plastics in our environment. And my special interest on that is to get synthetic turf out of Maryland. I'm also active with some federal service, because it's volunteer, but I'm the vice flotilla commander for my U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Unit. And I also serve as the executive board for the Howard County Police Department Citizens Advisory Council. So I'm very active out in the community doing things. And like I said, this is a club. I've known Jake, off and on. I still have to meet you in person yet, Jake, but I kind of know you virtually off and on for a while. So I'm very interested in supporting this club. So that's all I've got.
Yes. Well, thank you, Steve. And yeah, as Steve said, he's not just making that up. He has been a longtime supporter of progressive Dems of HOCO. In fact, I don't know if the guy has missed a meeting yet. I think he's been to all of them. So I appreciate your support, Steve. Steve's wife, Linda, also on the Central Committee, and one of few incumbent Central Committee members to have shown some support for this club. So thank you to both Steve and Linda. And Steve is also, I should add, not the only current District 9A state delegate candidate on the call right now. We also are joined by Dr. Chow Will, current Board of Ed member, and Dr. Chow has also been a longtime supporter of this club. And we've got don't worry, the next slide I've got upcoming events, and I'm promoting the Ellicott City Dem Club candidate forum for that race, but we'll get there in a second. But okay, so with Steve's introduction out of the way, so I will motion to vote in support of voting on Steve and Linda as members of PDHC. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Yeah. Okay. And then any other discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay. Well, congrats to the Bolins. Send our regards to Linda if she's not there with you.
Well, she's paying the check, so she'll know about this.
Yes. Well, thank you. Okay, so Moving on real quick before we get to the panel discussion, which is why I imagine most people come to these. So I just want to promote some upcoming events real quick, all like in the near future, and that is literally tomorrow morning. Any of my Medicare for All heads out there, I actually just got a call from Christy Fogel, the chair of the Maryland Progressive Healthcare Coalition, and they're trying to get as many people as possible. There's like a historic hearing tomorrow in Congress, examine pathways to universal healthcare. The Medicare for All activists are trying to get, as many people as possible for, press conference, photo ops, that sort of thing, make it look like, this policy has support and this needs to be a priority. So unfortunately, I don't think I'm in a bad spot where I can't take off any more time at work right now, but I encourage anybody else, if you are free, to go to that. Also tomorrow, is as I said earlier, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen and Chow, but I'm pretty sure this is the case, that there Ellicott City and Western Howard County Dem Club has a candidate forum tomorrow. Yep. Okay.
Yes, you do.
And so I know it's in person. Do you know if there's a virtual option as well?
No,
No.
all in person. Yeah.
No virtual option. Okay. So yeah, to answer your question, Francis, I guess it's not hybrid. So I guess we're going back to in-person events. I'm gonna try to make it to this tomorrow, but it's at 6 p.m. at the Linden Hall Community Center, which I've never been to. Masks and proof of vaccination is required, and that is for Steve and Chow Wu's race, and Natalie Ziegler's also running. Linden Hall's in River Hill. Good to know. And then also the district.
No, Linden Hall is in Dorsey Hall, not River Hill.
Oh, is it in Dorsey, Lori? I'm sorry, because the last
Yeah,
time
it
I had
is.
your, okay, my apologies.
Dorsey Surge. Yeah, Dorsey Surge.
Right.
Okay.
If you went to River Hill, you'd be very disappointed.
Yeah. Okay. Dorsey Search. I knew I should have just put the address on there, but oh well. So also though, District 1. So Liz Walsh, Naveen Kirtan, that'll be there. And then is this only the Democratic candidates, Steve and Chow? Do you know? Not Republican Okay. So I guess
Yes, only Democrats.
Dems only.
so only the primary candidates. And then county executives. I'm curious if I don't know if Harry Dunbar's on the call right now, but yeah, Harry, are you participating in this tomorrow?
No, it's there. Unfortunately, sorry, Harry, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's only just Chow, Natalie, and myself for the delegates, and then Naveen and Liz Walsh for county council. Those are the only 5 people showing up tomorrow night.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know where I got the exact thing from, or maybe that was the original plan and they went.
It was a part of the original plan. So what are you going to do about the exec race?
So I have to recuse myself from all this because I'm an officer in that club and I'm also a candidate. So I don't know what will happen with the exec race. I'm hoping that we do. I'm disappointed. I would hope that they do an exec race at some time too.
Because initially, your first message was the execs were supposed to be present tomorrow for discussion as well.
Yes, Harry, you
changed it.
You're 100% correct. And like I said, I had to recuse myself, so I don't know anything about the forum planning. So I don't know what happened to that, but you're right. I think the first message that went out was with the county executive, so I have no idea what happened with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have to ask James about that, because I would certainly hope that one of the Dem clubs is not trying to protect the incumbent executive from a debate. But I know that you had nothing to do with that, Steve, because you're a candidate, so you had to recuse yourself. But I will try to find out about that tomorrow. But okay, real quick, because I want to get to the panel and our guests are waiting. We've also got a campaign event / fundraiser for Frederick County Council member and county executive candidate Kai Hagan at McClintock Distilling in Frederick. You may be thinking, why am I promoting a Frederick candidate? Well, Kai Hagan, in addition to already being an elected council member, he is one of few candidates outside of the county to have actually signed the No Developer Donation Campaign pledge. That's long been a part of his, thing as a public figure for literally over decades now. Before it was cool. So I think I'm going to try to get to that on Thursday if anybody wants to carpool. Friday, April 1st, 6 p.m. Calvin Ball has a campaign event at Busboys and Poets. I don't know. I was considering maybe show up there for yeah. Also, Richard Elliott is also out of county candidate who signed the pledge. So thank you, Richard, for state delegate in Prince George's. But I don't know. I might go to show up to that ball event, do a little April Fool's prank. I don't know yet. We'll see. But yeah.
You want to take my sign? You can take my sign and make a real April Fool's thing out of it.
Yeah, come on. We'll see. We'll see what the answer about this executive debate is. But yeah, well, so Sunday, April 3rd, there is a Jamie Raskin book signing at Busboys and Poets hosted by all the Democratic clubs and entities except for us. Isn't that? We got forgotten about again, guy. Oh man, they keep forgetting about the Progressive Dems of HOCO. So that's another event this Sunday if you want to show up in your Progressive Dems of HOCO shirt. But I mean, this is why they shouldn't be surprised if, Calvin's thing gets an April Fool's joke done at it, because, you got to include progressive. You got to make progressive feel included. They're not doing that. And last thing, a reminder, April 15th, Sunday, is the last day to file for candidacy. If you want to run for something, anything, unless it gets extended again by another court date. Real quick.
It's also tax day.
It's also tax day. Yes. Yeah. And okay. So, real quick, some club updates. We testified on Christiana Rigby's watered down tree bill. We did not testify in support. We, like every other organization that testified criticizing it for being watered down. We specifically called out all of the, sort of special interest donations in our testimony. I encourage people to watch that video. It's linked here. We also signed on to a letter of support to keep Maryland State Senate bill hearings virtual to make it easier and more accessible for regular people to testify. They don't have to drive to Annapolis. Senate president was trying to take that away. I can't remember if they ended up taking it away or they listened to the activists. And the last thing we signed on to was a letter of support for the Maryland Environmental Human Rights Constitutional Amendment to make it easier if a corporation is, violating those environmental rights, we can maybe file a class action lawsuit or something. So there's that. And then our No Developer Donation Campaign pledge. Indivisible Howard County signed on as an organizational supporter. I want to say thank you to Harry Dunbar for being the first Howard County candidate to sign on to the No Developer Campaign pledge. Thank you, Harry. And then another really big announcement is we have our first incumbent office holder sign on, and that is Councilmember Liz Walsh, who we have not announced publicly. This is actually the first that this, anything has been leaked about that, but we are, planning on really stepping up the, promotion of the pledge announcements in the next couple of weeks, especially as, the campaign season grinds on. And I want to say, as a reminder, Steve, Chow, anybody else here that is running for office, we would love to have you all sign the No Developer Donation Campaign pledge, especially if you're in a close primary or something. This is one of few things that can kind of differentiate you between your opponent. So I see Lori had her hand raised.
I just wanted to mention Scott E. did a interview. He's interviewed a lot of the primary candidates, but his interview with Liz Walsh is on YouTube and it's really good. You should watch it and understand why we need to support her for District 1.
Yeah, no, that's and we have not endorsed anybody yet. We will be doing endorsements next month. The way that works is the executive board, essentially prepares the endorsement ballot, and we will be announcing who's on that ballot. I believe it's 15 days before the April 25th April meeting. So we will be hopefully, voting on endorsements in April. And yes, I second, check out Liz's pledge interview, or I'm sorry, check out Liz's Scott E interview. I said pledge interview because she mentions the pledge in the interview with Scott E. So yeah, check that out. But with no further ado, I'm sorry, we're a couple minutes behind, but we got, as I said, a great panel. What can the Democratic Party do better? And we're switching up a little bit. We're gonna have Karen Emery, our great secretary here. She's gonna moderate the panel. So I will hand it off over to you, Karen.
Thank you, Jake. So I think I saw that everybody is here, all of our panel. So we have 3 people today. Sanjay Srivastava, who is the president of the Indian Cultural Association, Brent Loveless, who is a Howard County community activist, and Karina Fisher, who is leader of Mobilized Howard County Schools. And if you want a little bit more information about that, I put little bio about each of them in the original invite that we sent out to everyone. I want to thank them for joining us. I'm going to say just a few words and then I'll kind of dive into them. When we were thinking about what we should discuss in this meeting, one of the topics that came up is the losing streak that the Democrats have been on kind of nationwide. I don't know if it's necessarily reflected completely here in Howard County, although we did have a Republican county executive in the last term. And it does seem like the Republican voice is growing within Howard County. And I just know as progressives, there's a lot of things that we stand for. And it seems like the issues that progressives care about, Medicare for all, free college, the list that we all know is out there, the environment, things like that, that are the Democrats, are they actually addressing those issues? What is causing the losses across the nation, and how is that actually reflected in our county? And that's what I wanted to deep dive into here tonight with our panel. Is we know that the things that this group has really been focused on is the no developer, no dark money pledge, right? We see a heavy influence of money that that prevents us from using our resources maybe to best serve our citizens. So one of the things that I did recently is we were talking about some of the hits that we take from not having, say, adequate infrastructure here in Howard County, is when you think about how wealthy this county is, and then you drive around to the schools and you see all the portable buildings. And like, I know here in the neighborhood that I live in Columbia, and I live in the neighborhood of Thunder Hill. And I think I counted 3 portable buildings in Thunder Hill. In the meantime, a piece of property was sold recently, and I think probably 6 or 7 probably $1 million homes are going to go in there. And are those kids, if those new families move in, are they going to be sitting in portable buildings? So you think about the price of the house, and then you think about whether those schools are we really doing the best that we can for the kids that live in our neighborhoods? And Thunder Hill is not unique. Kat, we drove around, she took a bunch of pictures of different schools. We saw that again and again. And so tonight, for our panel, and I'm going to let Karina start. I'm going to ask her first. What is it that you think Democrats could do better here in Howard County so that we can get a progressive agenda, more of what benefits our citizens? Or maybe you think they're doing a great job. So Karina, if you would be willing to answer that question.
Well, first of all, hello, everyone. Karina Fisher. I will say this is my first time just coming on and kind of speaking openly in a discussion. So it's a little odd for me, but I'm happy to be here. And again, with my advocacy, it's always focused on the school system, the children of the schools, just kind of the overall environment. And I started looking at redistricting, just not necessarily having a stake in it or having an opinion who should move where, because you can fight for your neighborhood, but that just means somebody else is going to have to move. So I kind of went above that and kind of looked for the pieces that were broken. When you're talking about redistricting close to 10,000 children at once, and we have 58,000 in the school system, it just felt like something was really broken. And that kind of led me down a path of discovery and research and just getting to understand the processes, and introduced me actually to one of the panelists, Mr. Loveless, who really helped to break down what those pieces were. And one of them was the developer influence is just rampant here in the county. So from a county level, in my perspective with schools, one of the things you touched on, Karen, is just the portables. These are temporary, supposed to be temporary classroom, temporary crowding, overcrowding mediation. We have some as much as 30 years old in the county, well past the lifespan. We're just millions and millions of dollars, not even just bringing in new ones, but shifting around old ones. And so for me personally, from the viewpoint of what can Democrats do here in the county is where it hits home for me, because the schools are Howard County's economic driver. That's just the fact. And to me, it's working on those pieces that are really just continuing this overcrowding. And when we look at a school that can reach 140% capacity with high school students, they're adult bodies. And when you jam that amount of children into the classrooms at 40% over capacity, something is wrong. And it just boggles my mind that they had no protection for capacity as far as to pace development until a few years ago. And that in large part was due to social media and the ability of information to get out there and people to communicate and educate what's going on. So for me, you know, what is that? I think education, our public school system, we really need to focus on that, because with the public school system, I believe in that. I know when I was, looking at the county for my own child, I went to a private school and kind of talked to them about things. And they said, our competition is the Howard County public school system. It's high quality, but it's not going to stay that way. And we keep seeing it deteriorate year after year. Increased class sizes. We've had 3 increases in the last decade or so. We have paraeducators removed from the classrooms. We have teachers. Yeah, I mean, teachers just stretch past their capacity in an environment where it's already hard to recruit and retain. So for me, public education, the financial support of public education, and then the pump the brakes on the processes that are broken that contribute to what I see as a deterioration of that system is what I'm interested in seeing personally.
Okay, thank you very much, Karina, and we'll dive more into that. And now I want to switch over. Is Sanjay on? Sanjay, are you out there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Sanjay. So welcome
Hi.
to the meeting. So I wanted to kind of switch. I want to give Karina a chance to talk about that, and then I want to switch to you, because I know that the work that you do with the ICA is you do a lot of work in Howard County feeding families. And so from the same perspective now, when we talk about how we're using our resources, and I'll just use some anecdotal story here. Is I lived in Long Reach for 23 years, which is a neighborhood that is on, it kind of backs up to the neighborhood that I'm in now. And for years there was a Safeway there, and there's an apartment complex that is across from that Safeway, and I believe that some of that is subsidized. And that Safeway could not exist because the people that shopped at that Safeway there wasn't enough people shopping at that Safeway to keep it around. It wasn't doing well. Part of that problem, in my opinion, was that there's a Wegmans around the corner. There's a Whole Foods in downtown. There's a giant food over on Center Park Drive. So people who can get in their cars and drive can go to better places. So that left a lot of people, in my opinion, kind of in a food desert. So I was thinking from your perspective, when you think about what can Democrats do better here in Howard County, and you look at all the people that you're feeding, what's your perspective?
First of all, thank you for having me here. And Karina, I appreciate everything you've said. It makes a lot of sense to me, including the comments related to Medicare for all, our education system, and generally the topics that we've been touching on. Now, to address your specific question of awareness, I mean, that because for me, when we first started, it was really simply helping a couple of families. And then it grew to what we saw, lines that were sometimes a mile long to go through our food distribution. So lack of awareness in that, you know, a lot of people aren't aware that a third of Howard, 30%, 33% of the families in Howard County have difficulty feeding themselves. And that's 22% of our kids, our children that's astonishing. That's 1 out of 5. 1 out of 4 kids is hungry. Over 60% of households led by seniors have to make the uncomfortable or, I mean, really difficult choice between paying for utilities and food. That's really incredible. So when we talk about a specific structure or business and food deserts, it exists. Here I'm referring to Safeway. You have to think that this problem is really widespread when you think about a third of Howard County families. If you go back and look at the Alice data, 9% of our people fall below the poverty line. And on top of that, you have 28% who are considered the working poor. That's a lot of people. These are our firefighters, our grocery store clerks, many of the people that we see as we walk down the street. And if we have a difficulty imagining this, I mean, turn and look, 1 out of 3. And as we looked at our food lines, and so it just mushroomed from there. The question became, how can we not do? And I see a lot of people who've come regularly to help at our food distributions. So it's about, 1, awareness and a commitment to solving the problem. I think the commitment has been lacking. I think there's been a lot of, and I'm sorry to say this, a little bit of showboating, a lot of photo ops and things like that, rather than adhering to it. We did what we did on a shoestring budget.
Oh, Sanjay, you froze on us.
Not because we have millions of dollars to spend. Am I here?
You're back, but your sound's been a little wiggy. We've been hanging with you, but yeah, you're back.
Okay. Okay. So as I was saying, this is a matter of commitment. They're very well in Howard County in hiding away the problem. The high density housing, one of the things to the people who don't have a voice. I think this has been lacking. I'm not sure, you know, so the problem is widespread and it is throughout. I mean, if we look at Ellicott City, one of the richest, I mean, I live in Ellicott City, just drive to Town and Country, just down the street across from Home Depot, and see a lot of families that, I mean, are good family folks trying to make a living, but having a tough time. We've done distributions there at that site. Have I addressed your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that. So thank you. So I'm gonna switch to Brent now. And Brent, I didn't have a targeted question from you, but as a Howard County community activist, I'm gonna try to tie together what Karina and what Sanjay just talked about, and then get your input on this. Is when you think about the overcrowded schools, and then you think of the hunger, and my information is local and anecdotal. It comes from Columbia because of the people that I talk to. Is I remember a few years ago is that a lot of the kids at Stevens Forest Elementary School go home with backpacks because they don't have food over the weekend. So they get a backpack filled with food to take home with them. And so from your perspective, when you see all this, Brent, what is the issue that is kind of that you have on your mind about where you think Democrats could do better here in Howard County?
Well, thank you for inviting me. I must admit, I have to stay very neutral due to my role in my current organization, which will be putting on a lot of forums too, which hopefully all of you can attend. But as you can see by the pretty little picture behind me, there's my grandmother 100 years ago at Laurel Park. We've been around here a while. We have literally, our family's been here through the Depression. My father was a child of the Depression. So I've seen it where you had to grow your own food and shoot your own food in your backyard compared to nowadays. But let's look at nowadays. I've spent a lot of time and effort focusing on land use, and particularly because I see that systemic of a vast majority of our issues. We have subsidized a lot of development over the years. And as a result, the tax money that is being gathered from all our citizens is not being put to the best and most effective use. And there are massive gaps and all across the board. And I tended to focus, and I see Ms. Markowitz on the line, and Karina and many others who have seen us work for years and years and years on APFO regulations. I would say that that is not the do-all be-all regulation, but let's face it, it does tie into every capital expense in the county. And because of which, if that cannot be resolved, we have much bigger issues with every other initiative that's trying to be accomplished within the county. And so we look at this, the school capacity thing is point blank. Schools are roughly 60 to 70% of the budget. It's a big, juicy area to try to raid from. And yeah, if you put 10% of your kids in trailers, you have extra MAD money to do other initiatives or projects or pay off past debt or subsidize other things. And we've become very complacent that that's the way it has been and that's the way it will always be. Go back to that picture behind me 100 years ago. There was a time when there were only a handful of schools in Howard County. Then in the 50s, we started building semi-modern schools and went through desegregation, which was a very good thing. But they were very basic schools, but they kept up with growth. Then we got into the 70s, the boom times of Columbia, and we relied heavily on the state to fund everything. They issued tons and tons and tons of bonds to help with the massive Rouse effort, but those eventually dried up. And then by the 90s, we got into trailers. And trailers started becoming the panacea for all. We had a planning director who said enrollment was going to drop, population was going to drop. It never happened. And as a result, we have never been able to catch up. We have made some baby steps toward improvement, recent APF rules, some charges to developers. But ideally, if you were to charge roughly 5 to 6% on the top of every single home that gets added to Howard County's inventory, we would have enough for the upfront costs for all the education system. A few more percent, we could also cover fire, police, water, sewer, and some of the less tangible things like environmental things that need to be considered as the county grows. We have a general plan coming up right now. It is very important we participate in it. And as usual, it is growth cures all. And pardon me for going on an antidote. but my daughter was in the Little Mermaid this weekend. They lost a lot of money because of COVID. They had to cancel 2 years ago, and they finally put on their play 2 years later. Sold out. Every single session was sold out. And she's like, we're going to make all our money back for the loss of the income 2 years ago. And I go, all you know is the revenues. What are the expenses? And she looked at me kind of dumbfounded. I go, you know, you may have had sold out rooms, but that doesn't mean you've actually paid off the past debt or have extra for future years. And that's exactly what we're doing to a larger scale with the school system. We keep looking at the revenue streams, but we don't look at the expenses. Or when we look at the expenses, we don't look at it in the form of what's our standard and how do we achieve it over a long term. I could go on and on and on forever. So I will leave with what can we do better? We have a honest to God mathematical formula. It's not too difficult to solve. I've run it through with grade school students in many Howard County schools. If you calculate your expenses, your revenues, what your standards are, and what you need to get there, it actually is not that difficult to implement solutions. Then we can spend more of our time on the more difficult stuff that isn't so black and white.
Thank you, Brent. I appreciate that. So I want to give you to the panel members some chances to comment also. So Brent made an interesting comment. There was an article in Bloomberg. I shared it, I believe, with other PDHC members, and I probably posted it on Facebook and Twitter because I was a little bit furious about it. And I think, Jake, keep me honest here, I think, I can't remember which developer it was, but they were talking about the downtown Columbia area and what they wanted to do, and that there wouldn't be enough public transportation and that it was going to be overcrowded. And they talked about that being a good thing. And there was no, there was no counter to what they were saying at all in the article. And so with that, so knowing that that is the developer's approach, how do we, what is the one thing? I mean, like obviously Brent's formula, if we could get that implemented, that sounds like that would be a huge deal. But what is it? And I'll let the panel choose how they want to answer this. What is the one thing we think that, like, if Calvin Ball or Harry Dunbar, our next county executive, what do we want from them? How do we put pressure on them to take these types of things seriously? Because I do think, this is my personal opinion, is I do think that this, I think Sanjay said this, is that we get a lot of showboating, and you see this now where they're crafting messages on a federal level. They're trying to craft a message. You know, we didn't do anything for 2 years, and now we've got price gouging, inflation, whatever, however you want to describe what's going on out there. So we're going to craft a better message. So even though we didn't give you what you really needed for 2 years, we're going to tell you that we're going to give it to you this time. And I do think that happens on the local level. How do we bring that pressure to get the Democratic Party to do the things that we need them to do? Because I don't personally believe that we'll get the Republican Party to ever do what we want. So I'll let the panel weigh in.
Do you want to stay in order, Karen? I don't want to.
Yeah, Karina, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. So just in terms of what can you do, there's two words that just are ringing out to me, and it's show up. I think the emails, and let me back up a second, because through the advocacy in terms of Mobilize HOCO Schools, showing up at the Benjamin Banneker room night after night after night, testifying, organizing, trying to share information, that's where I personally had met Councilmember Liz Walsh as a candidate. And when she did win the election, I was invited to come and join her staff, which I did until COVID hit. So I just want to say that because it's interesting to me how I was working for the state of Maryland and just had a child coming into the school system. And within 2.5 to 3 years, all of a sudden I was on staff for the county council. And that's because I showed up. And I tried my hardest to figure out a way that I was going to be heard, because I felt so desperate to give a voice to the children. and they don't have a voice. And I just was very compelled with that. So for example, I'll give a tangible example. Tomorrow night, Jake talked about, the District 1 candidate forum. I'm going to be there before my 7 o'clock meeting, and I'm going to ask why a candidate is taking developer contributions in this county when it's widely known that that's just rubbing everybody the wrong way. And it's just something that people are crying out for the influence to stop being stronger than the community voice consistently, whether it's environmental, the schools, placement of buildings, just all of these things. I can't believe there are candidates in this county that are still taking developer money with things. So my question is showing up and asking that question. And so to me, it's what can you do? Ask them the questions, but you have to show up so that you're asking them and they're in front of people when they answer. So that way it's not an email that they can answer or not answer. And there's not a lot of impact. It's where they are, where their voice is going to be heard. And I know when you're saying as far as, Republicans maybe not doing things, as much as I understand that, I will say that when I was in the position of advocating, I talked to every council member that was seated last council. And I also talked to the former county executive, Alan Kettleman, at every chance I got. When he delivered the State of the County address, live in the Bannock room, I sat there and I stood in front of him as he exited the door because I was going to get my question answered. And then I was going to share that on Mobilize HOCO Schools to hold him accountable for what he had shared with me, not in a contentious way or an adversarial way, but specifically for information so that as a community member trying to corral that voice of advocacy could direct people to that next tangible step. Because I don't think people, once they know what they want to advocate for, they don't know the best way to go about doing it. So I think just the words show up is very simple, but you have to get the conversation going and you have to do it in a way that there's an audience and that they're held accountable for it.
Thanks, Karina. I agree. I agree with what you're saying there. Sanjay, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I would. There were two things that jumped out at me. And then two, first we have to identify what the problems are. And education, focusing on education and development, of course, and then of course how people live in this county, central to everything, I guess. But growth cures all. We're already the second richest county in the richest country in the world. It is about allocation of resources. It's about how we prioritize things. When we look at human suffering and when we look at the weakest among us, whether they be our children or our elderly or disabled, or those who simply don't have a voice because they can't write that $5,000 check or $6,000 check. We have to identify the problem first. We're solving the problems without knowing what they are, in fact. And so there's plenty of money to go around. And we distributed 2.5 million pounds of food during the pandemic, more or less. Howard County Food Bank did what, 1.3? How does that happen? Does anybody ask that question? We're a ragtag team operating out of a van without support from the county. So we have the problems in the county, and we're asking about how we're losing votes. One is the state of the economy. Gas prices are going up, food prices are going up, and with Ukraine, we're going to see the after effects of the rising price of wheat and other goods, transportation. How are we going to address the needs of the growing group of people who simply can't put food on the table? We have to, and Paul will agree with me, I saw him a while ago, Food is a basic human right. How can we not, as stewards, as people who live, not care about the suffering of those around us? So one is the identifying the problems. I mean, when we talk about identifying the problems, you see, what I've noticed is this county is highly political. If you kiss the ring, and I'm speaking on my behalf, I'm not speaking on behalf of the organization I run. If you kiss the ring, so to speak, if you offer that support, you get benefits. If you speak your mind, which differs from the county, this is a big problem. You are not afforded that support. That didn't stop us, right? If you are committed to solving a problem, you can. That's the lesson. Now, when we look at what has unfolded over the last several years in the county, people call it identity politics. We've seen one race pitted
Sanjay, are you breaking up again?
One
Sanjay, I think we've lost you. Are you still there? Sanjay?
Oh.
Sanjay, your sound, you're good, and then your sound kind of echoes out. Can you hear me still? It's still frozen.
I am here. Hello?
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, you've got your sound, your audio, there's a little bit, maybe it's your connection or something. So your point is very well made. I do agree with you. I'm gonna let Brent weigh in, final one, and then I want to open it up to questions from the group. So you guys, if you want to ask a question, just raise your hand, and I'll try to answer as I can. So Brent, do you want to weigh in before we move to group questions?
Sure, and I'll go quickly. Obviously, I've learned what I've learned not from a political science major, but from just figuring things out on my own, do it yourself. And in general, big problems take a long time and a lot of persistence. And with the persistence, you can make forward progress. But there is only a certain appetite to get large groups to do so. I come in front of the county council multiple times, almost every session, and represent 75 schools. You would think that would carry a huge weight, but much like Karina said, unless you got the representatives of all 75 schools in there like a team meeting, you don't get the same attention. Likewise, you can burn out your resources. Most families cannot afford to go down to the George Howard building once a week and spend 4 hours doing advocacy. So you have to take that strategic timing to do that. But it shouldn't always be about rule of how many people show up to the meetings as well. You need to argue your points persuasively with logic, sometimes with emotion. Use every tool in the toolbook and see what works with the various officials. Also know where they're at and what their priorities are. There may be some way you can calculate a win-win or lose as little as possible, a soft landing legislation on certain items. But to Karina's point, again, it is getting people out and aware and educated. I can't believe I'm putting on little webinars. I'm trying to be private in my life, but I have to put out instructional seminars on some of the more complicated things we deal with to kind of refute some of the, I wouldn't say misinformation, but not exactly accurate information out there. And granted, there are many who try to correct me too if they feel I'm wrong. I could go on and on about this topic. I think I could also flip it around. I hope elected officials do see that there is a large interest in the community and many things that can make it better. The problem is the community is rarely handed a nice, easy button to press. Nobody walks up to you and goes, "Are we too dense?" They go up to you and provide you all these colorful plans of all the benefits of growth. Okay, but if you were to actually poll every single member in the county, I think you'd see a vastly different viewpoint than what comes up in front of the county council on a monthly basis. Like I said, I could go on and on forever. I will repeat the phrase, if you want something difficult done, if you have the persistence and the willingness to follow it through, and it can take years, it can be done. There is nothing that's impossible in this county, just things that take a lot of hard work and time and effort to get together the networks to accomplish your goals. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent. So you guys, so now I'd like to open it up to questions. Harry's had his hand up for a while. So Harry, do you want to ask your question? Harry?
Well, yes, it's really not a question. It's a statement I would like to make, and that is point out what I believe the real problem is, the super problem, and that is the people that are in office. You have a county executive, you have 2 sycophants, and then you have a Republican. Anything that the developer wants, they get it. Those 3 people provided what the developer wants. Whatever he wants, he gets. And until you break up that triad or whatever you want to call it, nothing's going to change. We have 2 very good candidates, 1 and 4, 2 and 3. It's going to kill us. We can't find, as far as I know, anyone to run for 2 and 3. Brent, do you live in 2 and 3? We need a candidate in 2 and 3. And until you break up that triad and that 1 Republican out there in 5, and if we re-elect the present administration, we're lost for 4 more years. Now, my kids went to Oakland Mills High School when what was the best school then? Centennial supposedly was the best school back then.
Yep.
They went through the school system prior to the portable classrooms, and they are living in the county. They've got graduate degrees. They're making big money, good money, boy and girl. So until we get, and my grandkids, because the schools have deteriorated, and I know because I used to go to all the PTA meetings, all of them, from elementary school all the way to Oakland Mills High School. I went to the PTA meetings, okay? Or if I wasn't there, my wife was there. But again, I'm gonna cut this short. We've got to find some challengers for districts 2 and 3 if we're serious about really making change. Otherwise, I don't understand how you're gonna make any change, because these people's minds have been set for 4 years. Now, how are you gonna talk them into changing their views? I don't think it's worth doing that. It would be much quicker and I could have my grandkids out of private school, where my son has put them, back into public school. That's where he wants them to go. But the schools have deteriorated, and he knows it and I know it. The schools have deteriorated. And to say that they are good schools, that means that all the other schools in the other counties are terrible. Are just terrible. Thank you.
Thanks, Harry. Karina, Brent, or Sanjay, does anyone want to react to what Harry just said?
Yeah, I would. I think that, involvement of the public, increasing awareness among the public is very, very important. What happened with the Citizens Election Fund has had a tendency to stay within the confines of the closed small groups that take a special interest, and that has to change. People have to become aware of of what's actually happening. Is anybody aware of the money that's flowing to the relatives and friends of the county executive? 50,000 here, 30,000 here, 10,000, 12,000 there. This is something that people must get to know. This is affecting policy. These people are in charge of, they have duties that impact the public and their decisions, the things that they're affected by, you know, and they become activists themselves. And it affects how, well, let me not pick an individual. It affects how members of the community are treated, or groups in the community are treated, and or really pitted against one another. We've got groups that are pitted against one another on racial and or other grounds. I mean, whether we're talking about black or white adjacent, or Chinese or Korean or Indian. I mean, this is not the way America is supposed to be. And then the county executive is actively engaging in these things for the elections. I mean, he's always constantly running. I mean, so I think that the key to changing things is not just to have these. I mean, these forums are wonderful, and I think they do increase awareness among us. But I think we need to engage the public to somehow, those people who don't vote or aren't aware of what's happening. They actually thought they could get away with it, with the Citizens Election Fund. But this time it got out. Enough of us spoke up that they knew it wasn't going to be in this nice little capsule. So this is what we have to do if we want the change.
Yes. Yeah, that was, I agree on that point. I also do think, before I call on Lori in just a second, I do think too that some of these candidates, to get back to the point that Harry was making, I think they're there because they already have a particular mindset, that it's not even changing their minds. They're there because they think that that's what it is. I don't know. I don't want to say that it's a power grab that they're after, but I think that they were chosen because, you know, of their particular mindset. Lori, go ahead, Sanjay.
I was just going to say, you were talking about the money aspect of it. It's win at any cost.
Yeah.
And it's win at any cost. And your principles and your ethics be damned. This is what we see in this county. And given the hardships that the common person is going through, I think we're going to see big changes. Don't be surprised.
Yeah, I do want to point out, Sanjay, you made a point about how we have to start conversations. So I want to give a quick shout out to Megan, and Lori, thanks for your patience. I'll call you in a second. But Megan has started a group on, I think it's on Nextdoor, Megan, where she's actually talking about, it's non-political. However, it's political in that she's really deep diving into the financial, I want to call them financial reports for the candidates. Who's taking money from whom? Where is it coming from? How does that influence the decisions that they make? And I do think you've got a pretty good mix in that conversation, Megan. So I just want to give a shout out about starting the conversation. Yes, it's on social media, and I do think that the conversation has to be much bigger. Lori, do you want to ask your question?
Thank you. And my question is for Sanjay, but first I want to thank you for everything you've done, which is pretty spectacular. But my question has to do with the ballot initiative that is going to be on the ballot in 2022, which is an effort to repeal the Liberty Act. And I want to know how your organization stands on that and whether or not you'd be willing to speak out publicly to protect the Liberty Act, and if we can count on you to do that.
Sorry, I had lagged off earlier, but I'm back. Was that a question for PDHC?
That was for Sanjay.
Oh, oh, okay. Sorry. My bad.
I would say, you know, I walk a very thin and tight rope as with the nonprofit. And so I will speak for things that make sense or in the public good. And when I see something in its final form, I have no hesitation in speaking up for it. I think you all know that about me already. How I do it and when I do it is something different. We have a festival coming up on the 30th at the fairgrounds. One of the best ways to get, and I expect anywhere between 10 and 15,000 people. And one of the best ways to get messages across to the public is to advocate at such forum, not perhaps from the stage, but so you will find me supporting in many ways in not just allowing, but dissemination of information related to issues that we care about. Now, there is a limitation on what we can do because we are a small organization, but this is part of our public outreach. These big programs that we put together. That's an opportunity for you all if you care about something. There is a lot of alignment between how I feel and what you do. Do I agree with everything that you stand for? No. But that's part of the problem. Today we were talking about the Democratic Party. The First Amendment means so much. The Constitution. We have to be diverse. We have to be willing to celebrate our diversity and speak our minds. And in this county today, we shut down debate. And, that's what I have found. Look, I've been a lifelong Democrat, and today I'm finding it hard to call myself a Democrat.
Sanjay, I appreciate all that, but I don't think you've answered my question. And I don't mean to push, but the Liberty Act protects confidentiality for immigrants in the county and prevents discrimination against them.
And I stand for
there
that.
has been, so there's been an extraordinary effort by Republicans to repeal this bill, this law. And what I want to know is whether you can speak out publicly and say you support the Liberty Act and that you will work to protect it. And we're going to be asking.
How do you want me to do that?
We
can have a conversation. We can have a conversation about.
Okay.
Look, but how? Because these are issues I care about, and I do support the rights of immigrants. Okay, both documented and undocumented. So I'm with you, but if you're going to ask me to go up at the festival coming up on the 30th and speak about this issue, I'm not sure I'm fluent enough in it to do that. If this is an issue that you care about and might want our support, it is an issue I can get behind, and I can show you how to get the message out to a lot of people.
Okay,
Now,
we're going to be working on getting that message out, but we are asking people in the community from organizations to sign a public statement saying that they are supporting the Liberty Act. And I'm hoping that you and other organizations here will stand behind this, because I can't think of any other bill that has been passed recently that is more inclusive and more protective of marginalized populations in this county.
And those are issues I care deeply about, as you will see from my work.
Okay, Sanjay, I'm going to be contacting you.
Let's talk
outside
this forum, and then we can have a more in-depth discussion
All
about
right, thank
what
you.
what I am willing to do, what I'm capable of doing, and how I can be most effective in supporting and helping you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sanjay. Thank you, Lori. Kiana, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. So I guess it's like, I remember hearing mentioning in the book a long while back about how the Howard County, it doesn't seem to be, a majority of Howard County doesn't seem to be informed of like who they're electing. And I guess if there's a way, or I don't know, any plans or thoughts about like how to spread the message or spread the information about the candidates that we're electing, because every time it's a county, it's a local election, and I try to look up the candidates, I barely find a thing about a good number of them for like the quote unquote minor roles, as well as I guess how to, I don't know, bring more people together in setting up, like, say, mutual aids or people's thoughts on them. And that's the whole panel.
Yeah, Brent, Karina, Sanjay, would you guys like to comment on what Kiana just said about? I think, Kiana, what you're asking is information on candidates. Like, how do you even find that out, right?
Yeah, and other county related issues, so people know what they're voting on and how to act, and or how to what path they want their county to go in.
If I can.
Oh, go on.
No, go ahead, please.
We are in a great age of social media where information can be spread relatively easily and with much less censorship. And we're also in the worst age that all it takes is 4 or 5 people constantly blasting Facebook and you can effectively drown out. And it is a pressure versus pressure. So there has to be as much information going out as there is information trying to counter it. In other words, look at Scott E's forums that he did, fairly neutral. He had a little bit of dialogue in there in his own slant in his questioning, but a very good resource for the general public. And I'm very frustrated when I only see 100 or 200 views and the hit counters for those things. Much the same when we put on forums. Community forums are very important, but also people's digital footprint. Have you seen people out in the community? Have they been advocating? Have they been going to council meetings and Board of Ed meetings and being on these various task forces and contributing in the general plan? If they aren't there, they're pretty much last second choices in a lot of cases. And unfortunately, there are many people reluctant to run for office just for the very fact that it is a high pressure thing, not only just to run, but you have to either be with a clique or against a large clique. And it can be very challenging for good candidates. And I have to throw this out here. I'm a defense contractor. I'm very limited in what I could do publicly. I'm pretty much at the fringe of advocacy. If you are government, even more so, more restrictive. And we have lots of people who work for all the 3-letter agencies in the region. Some of the most intelligent, hardworking people who contribute the most to the community, and they're very reluctant to put their foot out there because it does draw a lot of public fire and can affect their careers and livelihoods and their missions that they perform at work. I do think we need a little more protection for those individuals to be able to run for office and put forward good thoughts and be independent thinking, and also put forward the best ideals of their political parties. So this is just me rambling pie in the sky, but I think we need to recognize the issue in order to start resolving the issue. Ms. Markovitz, I applaud her years ago. She put together a referendum. All of a sudden, we removed things out of the clique and put it to the general public. And it was very powerful and met with a lot of resistance as well. But I think things like referendums need to resurface to kind of bring back the general population and into the future plans of how Howard County is going to develop. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent. So you guys, our panel discussion's been going on for about an hour. I don't think there are any further questions. Karina, do you have any final thoughts before we close out here? And then I'll give Sanjay and Brent a chance as well to give their final thoughts.
No final thoughts specifically, but I do, this group kind of coming online is really encouraging because, for myself, I tend to, for politics, for example, I'm not a politically driven person. I've never really been involved in politics until I realized that the people who were in charge of the policies that I was interested in are elected. And then they became very important to me, and I had to figure out what they stood for, and I got actively involved in a campaign. So I just want to say that I'm glad to see a group like this formed, because to Sanjay's point, I think the just ability to be able to share different ideas without being hammered or labeled or things is just something that doesn't exist widely, especially in this county with social media. You have discussion happening, and then all of a sudden you'll get a number of people from this side come in and just hammer people and just make horrid accusations and labeling and all this type of stuff. And then, you know, if you go in a different group and you make the same exact statement, then you have this side come and hammer you down there. And there's really not a lot of space where those two sides allow, I think, the majority of us to really just have the freedom to talk. And it's very much, it's hard. It's hard. And that's why with mobilized HOCO schools, I have to really maintain focus on a sole issue. And we don't talk about anything else, because it would destroy the group. It would destroy the focus, because we have just lost the ability to communicate with each other and effectively give each other space to just talk it out. So I'm glad that this group exists. I will be becoming a member, and I just think that finding groups like this, that you can talk about differing ideas, or just respect somebody when they say they don't agree, and find that common space where you do agree, and let the person have what they what they are entitled to have, which is their opinion and their feelings. So I just applaud the effort here to have this group come alive, and it's refreshing. And I just wish it the best of luck, and I'll certainly become a member to help that voice grow. And, you know, I just appreciate the, I don't know, the invitation to come here and have a great discussion.
Well, thank you so much, Karina. We would love to have you as a member, and I'm glad that the club is meeting some of the needs that you see out there, which is really the intention of this club, is to bring discussion. That's why we have the panel discussions. So do you want to talk about real quick, it's Mobilize HOCO Schools, it's your Facebook page that you run. Do you want to put in the chat maybe a link to that in case anybody's interested in?
Yeah, I can put it in the chat. I do want to say that it is just upfront. Unfortunately, sometimes there's topics that are very divisive that come up in the county, like redistricting. And we'll have people, you know, start kind of being divisive in the group, because, and I get it, like their neighborhood is up on the chopping block for redistricting, or, you know, their school got bumped for deferred maintenance, or that. I don't allow any of that. The Mobilized HOCO Schools is about the county and focusing on county processes that are broken that affect all the schools. So it is a very focused Facebook group. It is about getting information out there so people can read things like the newest capacity charts, or I'll attend a meeting where I hear things firsthand. There is no gossip. There is no secondhand interpretations. It's either charts, links, pictures of actual people speaking, because I believe in saying what's factual. And I also believe in education to help people come to informed opinions. So I just want to put it out there that that group is not a discussion group. It is, if people care about the overcrowding of these schools, and the further deterioration of our school system, and want to actively keep an eye on APFO. If you don't know what that is, adequate public full, I can't believe adequate. Oh my goodness, it's been years with APFO. It's like my second friend. But if you're, I can't even believe, but if you're just, it's like APFO is the county's safety valve in pacing development. And if that is of interest to you as it specifically affects the school system, then Mobilize HOCO Schools is a great place to be. But it is not just kind of a general discussion area. And, someone said too, what can they do or where can you go to get information? I will say in this county, and I wish I could do this, and actually that's where I was going to go after APFO was strengthened, and then saw that it was not even the ink had dried on the legislation that did it, and it was under attack. So I needed to stay there. But I would have had, a Facebook group that specifically followed candidates, because I think that information is not out there, like posting the interviews in each district, having people share information. So when somebody asks, like, what can I do? Where can I go? If those things interest you, I mean, a Facebook group dedicated to one specific issue or one specific district. If you're in District 2, for example, word of mouth gets around and people are looking for those spaces. So, in some ways too, like, what can you do? What is out there? Sometimes it's just creating something yourself that you can maintain and that you're interested in. So I'll put a link long verbose there, but I'll put a link there, but I just wanted to let people know what that focus is. And I'm very protective of it because I believe that Facebook group help spread awareness, so much so that it changed an election result in District 1. And I can say that with certainty that without that Facebook group, District 1 would not have had Liz Walsh elected. And that is the power of focus and just showing up if you can. And I know that is a privilege and entitlement for a lot of people, but it does make a difference. So that's I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Karina. We are huge Liz Walsh fans in this club. Brent, do you want to have a final word? And if there's anything that you want to plug, I know you came on here kind of independently, but if there's anything you want to plug.
I'm a broken record on APFO, but that's a big enough problem to resolve. I would like to thank the People's Voice LLC. They've hosted my later APFO 101 sessions. So is Hiri's website. And quite honestly, they're open for anyone to post up. I want more people to learn about it, but not just APFO. APFO is critical to get right. That gets all our capital budget items in check. But I think Karina touched upon this earlier. This is a never-ending thing. It's a business process. It's just like if you go to work and you have to go to IDLE or Six Sigma or any of those other things. It's a continuous revolving business process. What have you learned? What can you do better? How can you implement it and keep moving forward toward the goals that you want to achieve? And you can do it within your party. You can do it within as an individual, but you do need to continually advocate and you get out of it what you put in. And one last little plug. We're in a golden age where only a half dozen people to a dozen people show up to council meetings and hearings and whatever. You have a disproportionate influence when you come and help out right now. Eventually, one day we may have 1,000-person council meetings, but we don't right now. So please take advantage of this golden opportunity and come in and represent your communities and educate them and help them advocate for you and make this county a better place. And thank you for putting these things together to try to do the same yourself.
Thank you very much, Brent. And Sanjay, I'll go to you last. You want to give your final words, and then you want to talk a little bit about ICA and the work that you do there.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you all. Karina, it's nice to see you. It's been a while. And Brent, again, some great words of wisdom related to the council. Kiana, Megan, everybody, Paul, David, thank you for the help that you give at the ICA food distributions and many others. So I would say, I think a forum where we have free exchange of ideas is very, very important. I'm not familiar with these, quite honestly. This is not my safe space, so to speak. I am committed to the things that I've undertaken. And those relate to the ICA, the Indian Cultural Association. It is about bringing our diverse communities together. Our festivals, they've grown large, but it's not all Indian. There are many, many people who come, and that's what I love to see. I know inherently that when people sing together and laugh together, learn to play together, they're less likely to be adversarial. They can have a conversation, and a conversation is very important. Secondly, I would say that there is it's very important to learn about one another, to learn about what's actually going on, to care about one another, and then carry on with the spirit of service. I do stand up for issues that come up, but I have to also, and I want to work to give a voice to people who don't have a voice, and I've done that, and I've centered my action relative to hunger. I come from a country where there's a lot of it. I've seen it firsthand. So this is important to me. And so I would say, when I look to, please come if you're listening to our festival on April 30th at the fairgrounds. Get a chance to see what we do. I want to also share that we're developing a farm at this time, a rather small facility, but 25 acres to inject more food into the system. We want to build greenhouses, a community garden, and make a place where we've already begun food distributions there, in addition to the Miller Library, which we do to supplement. This is in addition to the people who are homebound. So the farm, we're still preparing. We want to make a place where children who live in concrete, surrounded by concrete, get to know where their food comes from, a safe space to come to learn and to enjoy, to be themselves. Alleviating hunger. And this means that when getting back to education, a hungry child can't learn. And they come up with, they have so many other problems. So this is where we are focusing our energies. And I would ask that, as so many of you have, please join us. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you very much. Thank you to all our panelists. I want to thank you everybody who provided questions. And then I am going to now turn it back over to Jake. Jake, are you still there?
Hey, I'm sorry about that, Karen. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. All right. So thank you to our panelists. We're wrapping it up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. My mom started talking to me. But yeah. So thank you to all the panelists. We really are fortunate to have so many good community leaders who have done so much for so long. And thank you for sharing our thoughts. Thank you to the audience members, especially the new ones. And before we wrap it up, just wanted to offer the chance to provide feedback. If anybody thinks, likes what we're doing with the meetings or thinks we should do certain things differently, but did people, for example, did they like that we didn't start with the panel and we did everything else at the beginning and then do the panel at the end? Is that do people, prefer that format over doing the panel first and then everything at the end? Yeah, it certainly makes things go a little quicker. But as always, if anybody else has any other suggestions, topic ideas or panel ideas, email us, message us on social media. And yeah, the very last thing is, this is still a new club. It's growing. I appreciated, the comments from the panelists saying that they're glad that this group exists. And really what we're trying to do here, relating it back to the theme of the panel, how can the Democratic Party be better is it kind of, unfortunately, it shouldn't be this way, but really, if we want them to be better, we have to drag them kicking and screaming to do it. And we have to do it from, sort of from the inside. So continue to join this club, continue to get involved, continue to spread the word, support candidates that we endorse. If you'd like to be able to vote at the endorsement meeting next month, you have to be a member. You had to have paid your dues at least 15 days before, and it's going to be April 25th. So April 10th, at the very least, pay your dues by then if you'd like to be able to vote. But thank you, everybody. Follow us on social media, link tr.ee/HOCO Progressives. And I guess we will see everybody last month. If there are no other comments, we can motion to adjourn the meeting. So I'll stop if anybody does have a comment. Okay.
The only thing is that one person did ask if you would send out the presentation following the meeting.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing that we should just start doing out of habit in general. So yeah, I think that was Katie who asked that, who might be gone now. But yeah, no, that's we should send that. We do upload the recordings onto YouTube afterwards, but yeah, we should start sending the PowerPoint out as well.
Just one more thing, Jake, just going back to something that Lori asked about the Liberty Bill, and I hope the referendum does not pass. I hope that it fails. But I think the point of one of the main reasons we have this club is to get those kinds of wedge issues out of the way, so we can focus on the money issue, because every election, every year, the establishment, at least to me, uses these issues as a way to rile people up. And at the end of the day, the people who should be benefiting from these causes are not benefiting. So, just tying it back to, what can the, Democratic Party do better, is, stop riling people up and, focus on the issues, which is the money issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Lori, if there is anything, if there is some sort of organizational sign on, to oppose this referendum drive that they're doing, definitely be sure to let us know.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Well,
Hey, can you see that Joel has his hand up?
You said what? Something about Joel?
Joel has his hand up.
Oh, hey, Joel.
All right, yes. And I joined late.
Yeah, no worries.
So what is the plan for the Liberty Act? I just looked at the Lisa Kim's group. They had $63,000 or something that they burned through. I assume they're going to raise more for the referendum in November. And you're talking about having a sign on to things.
Just to give background for people, and I should have done that. I'm sorry. The Liberty Act was passed in 2020. And what it does is protect confidentiality for undocumented immigrants. The bill prohibits any discrimination against immigrants through the public sector and prohibits public sector employees from even asking about immigration status, and prohibits them for giving information about undocumented immigrants to ICE. So the bill passed 4-1 and was signed into law by Calvin Ball. And shortly thereafter, Lisa Kim and her group started a campaign to repeal the Liberty Act. And she got enough money, including, I think it was $5,000 from the campaign to reelect Kittleman and $1,000 from the campaign to reelect Youngman. They hired a group of Republican pollsters, interviewers, who went around the county and got people to sign a petition saying that the Liberty law should be repealed. And I know one gentleman asked me to sign the petition in the parking lot of the Giant on Route 40. And he told me that if the Liberty Act was not repealed, that the county would be overrun with immigrants. Unfortunately, because of so much misinformation, they did get about 11,000 signatures, and it was enough to get a question to repeal the Liberty Act on the 2022 November ballot. We don't know the language of the question yet. We won't know until early September. So when I'm saying we, I'm talking about the Howard County Coalition for Immigrant Justice. And we were, okay, should I keep going or should I stop?
The language, I believe, had to be approved by Guy Mickley. I think that's on the petition and on their website.
I'm sorry, there's another sound going on. I'm sorry, Jill, I didn't hear you.
I was just saying, I thought that the language had to be approved, well, at least the language for the petition. So I assume that's basically the language for the voting should be on.
Not necessarily. The language is going to be developed in August and we will see it in early September. It's developed by the county. Unfortunately, that makes it very hard for those of us who are trying to educate the community because we can't say vote yes on referendum B or vote no because we don't know what it sounds like. So we are, the coalition is going to be asking organizations to sign a public statement to protect the Liberty Act, and we will be campaigning, working with local politicians to get their support, and we've talked with several who have already committed to supporting us. And mostly we want to educate people because most people don't know about this issue at all. And you know, it's very difficult on ballots when you have these kind of charters or referendum questions because people aren't familiar with them. And we certainly believe that most people in Howard County would support this referendum and do support the Liberty Act if they know what it is. And that's why it's so important to have public knowledge and education. And that's why we're going to be asking in all of the forums for political candidates to take a stand on this issue, because I think it's very important. So far, I looked at all of the public statements for the county council and state candidates, and only one has publicly made a statement. The Republican running for District 1 in the county council had a very negative statement about immigrants on his initial website, but then the professionals got involved and it was totally scrubbed. And now he has a website that is devoid of content, basically, but looks beautiful. So it's just so critical that we support undocumented immigrants in this county because they work, they pay taxes, they do jobs that no one else will do, and yet they have all the obligations of citizenship, but they get none of the rights. So that's why it's so important that we pass, that we protect the Liberty Act and make sure that the repeal is voted down.
All right, let me ask my question again. So looking at the report, Kittleman apparently gave 10,000 cumulative, and
okay.
Youngman apparently.
That's discouraging. I'm out of date.
Youngman gave 6 cumulative. They raised $60,000. I assume they're going to get more again. So
possibly.
Issue with my indivisible group is there going to be a campaign group supporting it, because you have to register with the state to do that. You're not going to get enough just by having people asking questions at forums.
No, that's very true. And we are working with CASA
going to vote.
Sorry?
We already know how Kittleman and Youngman feel, so we don't have to ask.
Right. No, we don't have to ask them. But the real point is to reach the community and make sure that they know what this question on the ballot is, and that they should protect the Liberty Act. And I think we've taken up more than enough of our time. But if anyone is interested in joining us, I will put my email in the chat.
No, if I can just say a word, the Coalition for Immigrant Justice, you know that, Lori, when the organization was initially tackling these issues, I attended several of those meetings. And I did take part in, whatever I could offer at the time. But bandwidth simply isn't there, given the commitments with
I
ICA
understand.
to address those issues. So you know very well where I stand. I've participated in terms of rights of people and the struggle of people. The again, what I can do publicly, and certainly in this forum, is may or may not be limited. But I again, the principles I stand by are known. The specific language as it comes out, I'll look at. And but in terms of promoting this issue, as I said, there are ways to get the word out, the message out to people.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll be in touch.
But you know where I stand on this. I've been there, and I've expressed my opinion fully without hesitation in those meetings.
Okay, good.
Well, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you for bringing it up, Lori. It is an important issue. The Republicans, I'm sure, will be using it, as a voter turnout goal. So, yeah. So, anyways, to wrap it up, just got a text from Christy Fogel from the Maryland Progressive Healthcare Coalition. If you were planning on going to that, the universal healthcare coverage hearing tomorrow in Congress in DC. I said it was at 9 a.m. It's now been pushed earlier to 8:15 a.m. But Pramila Jayapal and many members of the squad are supposed to be there. So maybe that will be enough motivation to get people out and early. But I just found that out. So wanted to say that. But with no further ado, can I motion to adjourn the meeting? And do I have a second?
I second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed? All opposed, nay. Okay. Well, have a good night, everybody. Thank you for coming out.
Hey, Jake.
Yep. Take care.
Aye.